It's Sunday, August 23rd, and I want to come to you with a tarot reading for people who are feeling grief. Whether that grief is small and somewhat negligible or quite large and present and immediate. One of the facts of life is that as soon as we start to love, we start to lose. We do. Our pets, our loved ones. Part of the human journey and love journey is that we're going to lose. Now, that loss for me is temporary, because when we lose people and their physical bodies to life, well, their souls move on to the place we go to when we pass on. So it's just an inevitable amount of time before we get to where our loved ones in spirit go to. And that includes our pets and our loved ones that are human. But I want to speak to grief, and especially survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt is a real thing. The idea that we should feel guilty for surviving, God should have taken us versus somebody else, or finding it difficult to maintain a beautiful, healthy, sumptuous life while we're here and our loved ones have moved on to death. A few perspectives that I want to give you, especially around this idea of loss, death, and grief. When we move on to the world of spirit and where we go, well, it's not a distant, detached dimension. It's right here. And the analogy that I will always use is a one-way mirror that we see in a cop show, where we, as living human beings, sit on the side of the suspects, pretty oblivious to what's going on the side of spirit. But our loved ones in spirit sit on the side of the cops, where they see us, they feel us, they know us. And if you are feeling grief of losing someone to that side of the mirror, I want you to just remember that you are their movie. You are their television show. You are being watched by groups of individuals that you can't see. That's the nature of spirit and the way our worlds overlap. Right here. That's my gram. Now, I've got 4 grandparents. My grandfather, I didn't get a chance to know. These 2, my dad's parents, didn't get a chance to know. I did get to know my gram, and I want her to rest in peace. One of the truths about life and death is this. If I want my gram to rest in peace, I have to live in peace. I have to take care of her grandson. I still am blessed to have my parents, and when I lose my parents to death, it's going to kill me. It's going to floor me. But I will immediately start taking care of their son, because that's what they would want. And if you've lost somebody to death and they're on the world of spirit, if they're over there watching you, I want you to go through the thought exercise of switching places with them. What's coming to my mind is a woman on my Facebook page who's recently lost her son. And I want that woman, if she sees this, to imagine switching places with her son. If she was in spirit watching her son on earth and in this physical world, what would she want for that son? Hope, abundance, joy, love, laughter, all the good things that life has to offer. That's what the son wants for his mother. That's what people who love one another want for their people that they love. So for you, if you've lost somebody to spirit, I want you to think about, if your positions were reversed, what would you want for them if they were still alive? When you find that for yourself, you're giving them peace. You're giving them everything that they could ever want. I do also want to acknowledge that grief might perhaps be the hardest struggle that we walk through. For me, and from what I've seen, the worst thing a human being can go through is the loss of a child. That's the number one thing a human being can go through. That's the worst thing a human being could ever experience. Then it's the loss of a spouse. Then it's the loss of, say, parents or siblings. I don't want to tell people not to feel the pain, because that's almost impossible. I don't want people to, I don't want this to be like toxic positivity where you've got to stay happy. No. Where we go when we pass away, we know at a deeper level what this life-death dance is all about. We know because we can see into this world that it's inevitable that our people who are still living join us. So there's a distinct sense of faith when we're in spirit, because we know, well, shit, I didn't poof out of existence. I carried on. I carry on in a way that our physical people can't see me. And we get to understand the idea of grief and influence and propaganda and conditioning all to a deeper level. And even though we understand Earth and the human journey from a higher perspective, it doesn't mean that we lose our capacity to feel. In fact, when we move to spirit, our capacity to feel is deepened. I think of a friend who this year lost her wife, and how that wife only wants the best for her living spouse here. And that living spouse is having a hard time. She's feeling guilty. She's having hard days. Of course, that's part of the process. Carrying on in the face of that loss is almost insurmountable. But when we connect the dots and we understand that our peace is their peace, our suffering is their suffering, and that's the nature of love, I think we can find that strength to show up for ourselves a little bit more. You know, like when I don't even want to talk about it, but it illustrates a point. When I lose my parents, I'm going to take care of their son, because that's what they would want. That's what they're going to want. So when we take care of ourselves, we take care of the people that we love in life and in spirit, and that is the nature of love. I just want to give us a 3-card reading about grief, loss, death, and hopefully offer a little bit of comfort to those who might be going through it. Because again, it is hard, and I just want to, hold space for you. I'm not sure I can fix it. Maybe all I can do is offer some perspectives that will help you hold it differently. Let's take a look at the card that represents who we are. Talking about holding, here's the Knight of Cups. So cups in tarot are emotions, they're loves. This is their love. This is the Holy Grail. Knights show up when they're people of honor, integrity, hard work. And we can be holding this emotion, right? We're soldiering on in this world like a knight. We're not moving very far. We're not moving very hard. We're kind of moving slowly. That horse is barely moving. And we're focused on the love that we're holding. I think the cups remind us that love is the most important reason why we're here. We're here for all sorts of reasons. We'll live, we'll laugh, we'll love, we will learn. But that loving part, to experience love, I think is the most important reason why we're here. So those who are grieving are holding on to this cup. They're holding on to their heart. They're holding on to their love. The card that challenges us, though, the Lovers. Now, this is a major arcana card, and for me, this actually speaks to self-love, to find love for oneself. A lot of people who lose their loved ones, and I sat with somebody today. I sat with a woman today, and she was going through this. She had just lost a man of 27 years that she was with, and she was in this place of, I should have seen it sooner, I wish I had, I could have, and she was really beating herself up. And I had to express this to her, like, you didn't make a mistake, you didn't hurt anybody, you're as much a victim of this force of nature as this other person was. But here's why grief can be especially hard and poisonous for us. When I sit with folks, I tell them, when I sit in this way with spirit, I kind of turn into a bullshit hunter. When I work with the dead, when I work with higher spirits, they want the best for us. They want us to work through our emotional, mental pain. They want us to work through life stuff. They want the best. So bullshit hunting is something that moms do, wives do. Some dads and men do it too, but mostly women are taught that they gotta hunt the bullshit. They gotta take the kids to school. They gotta bring the animals to the vets. They gotta put the groceries, in the cupboard. They're bullshit hunters. Now, when we're hunting bullshit for our loved ones, eventually what will happen, and this happened to the woman that I was talking to today, we eventually come up against forces of bullshit that we can't stop. Like there's a force of nature, that like death or illness or calamity, that we'll eventually come up against that we can't stop. And unfortunately, for most bullshit hunters, what happens is they point the finger back at themselves. Well, I should have seen it. I should have done it. They have it in their mind that they were responsible for fixing everything. You know, I think of this mom who lost her son. Well, she's thinking to herself, well, what if I had? What if I done? What if I could have? What if I should have? That's a horrible place to be in, but it makes sense based on what we're taught by this world. Okay. The person that loses someone to death is responsible for taking care of themselves and moving through that swamp of grief at their own pace. Everybody moves through a different journey when it comes to grief. I think most of us are familiar with the 5 stages of grief: the anger, the bargaining, the depression, the acceptance, all of that. Let's take a look at the card that heals and reveals for us. The Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles is this idea that being in earth is a gift. And I think a lot of people, and I just met a woman the other day, I did a live event, and in front of the audience, I had to call this woman out for yelling at God. And I was like, you're mad at God, you yell at him. And she's like, I sure do. He's taken a lot of people away from us. He has put us through a lot. Man, did God do it, or did people do it, or did addiction do it? And I guess if you think that God created everything and everything is God's fault, then I guess God did it. But the people who get mad at God for taking away their parents or their loved ones or their children should probably remember, if they can, that it was a gift to have them in the first place. That it was a gift. That we have this gift. And this is, to me, the Ace of Pentacles. The fact that here's a gift. You know, your children, your friends, your pets, your parents, all of these people, all of these creatures, all of these loved ones. How many of them are actually gifts? And this idea that life is temporary and short increases the value that we have while we have them. So appreciate the people that you have right now. You might not always have them. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them how much you're proud of them. Let them know. And if you're holding on to grief right now, remember the good times. Remember the times that you had. Don't get caught up in what you've lost. Remember what you've gained. And I think that's a valid point for so many of us. None of us have come to earth to be punished. And I know that it will feel like when we're losing our loved ones, that it can feel like that. But that's not at all the truth. We're not being punished when somebody gets taken away from us. It's just part of the process of life and death. I want you to remember that. And I want you to take care of yourself, and I want you to take care of the person that they love, because they're rooting for you. They want the best for you. They want you to sleep well, eat well, be comforted. And I hope that I gave a little bit of that to you right now. It's all my love to you. Take care of the person that they love, and you can't do anything more than that. All right. I'll see you next time. Have a great week.